A different path. The new Canadian political order. The night of October 19th, 2015, marks a pivotal moment. The anticipated red wave of Liberal support under Justin Trudeau fails to materialize. The final seat count is a shock to many, as a fragile Conservative minority government led by Stephen Harper is returned to power, holding on by a slim margin. The Liberal Party, though securing a strong second-place finish, is deeply disappointed, while the NDP sees a devastating collapse in its support, leaving Thomas Mulcair's leadership in tatters. The aftermath. A party in search of a leader. The defeat is a watershed moment for the Liberal Party. The narrative of Justin Trudeau's charismatic, sunny ways is now viewed as a political miscalculation that alienated cautious voters. Facing a powerful Conservative machine and a party demanding a new direction, Justin Trudeau announces his resignation as leader just a few months after the election. The party enters a period of intense introspection and a leadership race to find a more pragmatic and experienced figure to counter the Conservatives' focus on fiscal prudence. The leadership race is not a foregone conclusion. Seasoned figures like Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney emerge as frontrunners, along with other prominent MPs and former cabinet ministers. The debate is less about a bold new vision and more about strategy. How to win back the suburban voters who were spooked by the talks of deficits on social spending. Freeland's more progressive stance and association with the previous Liberal platform ultimately makes her a less appealing choice for a party seeking a clear break from the past. The party ultimately chooses a leader who is more aligned with the old-school Liberal tradition of fiscal responsibility and pragmatic governance. The new leader, a capable and respected figure, immediately begins the difficult work of rebuilding a party's platform and public image, distancing it from the promises of a carbon tax and ambitious social spending. 2015 to 2019, the Conservative fourth term. With a minority government, Prime Minister Stephen Harper's fourth term is a study in political survival. The government relies on tactical alliances with smaller parties on a bill-by-bill basis, leading to a period of legislative stasis. The federal carbon tax is never introduced. Instead, the government continues its regulatory approach to climate change, which, while applauded in the resource-rich provinces, draws international condemnation. Canada's reputation on the world stage as a climate leader is non-existent, and the country struggles to meet its international emissions targets, leading to sanctions and a diminished role in global climate talks. Marijuana legalization, a policy championed by the Liberals, is firmly rejected by the Conservative government. Possession and distribution remain illegal, and the black market for cannabis continues to thrive, generating billions in untaxed revenue for organized crime. The criminal justice system remains burdened by the prosecution of simple possession charges, and a disproportionate number of racialized and low-income individuals continue to face criminal records for cannabis-related offenses. A planned multi-billion-dollar investment in infrastructure is significantly scaled back in favor of a rigid commitment to a balanced budget, and the national debt remains a key focus of the government's rhetoric. Internationally, the Canada is back narrative is never heard. The Harper government's foreign policy is a continuation of its pre-2015 approach, focused on trade and security. The relationship with the United States becomes more complex after the election of Donald Trump in 2016. Without a leader like Trudeau to act as a vocal, progressive counterbalance, Canada is seen as a junior partner. Trade disputes are frequent, and a mini trade war over steel and aluminum tariffs puts a significant strain on the relationship. The response to the Syrian refugee crisis is also notably different. The numbers of refugees accepted are far smaller, and the process is slower and more bureaucratic. The 2019 election, a new contest. By 2019, the political landscape is radically different. The Conservative government, having survived for 4 years, is now led by a new figure after Stephen Harper's retirement. The Liberal Party, under its new, more centric leader, campaigns on a platform of fiscal stability and measured social progress, a stark contrast to the premises of 2015. The NDP, having rebuilt under a new leader, tries to position itself as the true progressive alternative. The election is a close, three-way race. The result is a Conservative majority government. The new Conservative Prime Minister, building on the legacy of the previous 4 years, implements a platform focused on tax cuts, deregulation, and further resource development. The political identity of the country has shifted decisively to the right. The post-2019 era, a Conservative Canada. The new Conservative majority government cements the changes that began during the Harper minority. The focus on fiscal conservatism becomes the defining feature of Canadian politics. The tax-free savings account is expanded, and the new tax relief measures are introduced for families and seniors. Infrastructure spending remains modest, with a focus on projects that directly support resource extraction and trade corridors. Socially, the country remains divided. The lack of marijuana legalization means a legal cannabis industry never develops, and the social and economic benefits of its regulation are never realized. The conservation around climate change is less about a national carbon price and more about the technological solutions and the role of the energy sector. The progressive social movements of the late 2010s in our timeline, such as those related to Indigenous reconciliation and gender equality, have less federal government support, and their progress is slower and less pronounced. Immigration and a tighter border. A central feature of the post-2019 conservative Canada is a fundamental shift in immigration and refugee policy. The new majority government moves to solidify a more restrictive approach. The overall number of immigrants and refugees accepted annually is significantly reduced, with a greater emphasis on economic class immigrants who fill the specific labor shortages, rather than on family reunification or humanitarian intakes. Refugee settlement programs, already scaled back under the Harper minority, are further constrained. The government's official position is that these programs place an unsustainable burden on political finances, and the focus shifts to ensuring that any new arrivals are self-sufficient as quickly as possible. Financial support for government-assisted refugees is cut, and privately sponsored refugees, who rely on community groups for funding, becomes the primary pathway for humanitarian immigration. This policy is framed as a matter of fiscal responsibility and an effort to protect the integrity of the immigration system from those who would take advantage of the social programs. The result is a dramatic decrease in the number of newcomers and a public discourse that is less centered on welcoming and integrating new populations, and more on border security and fiscal control. The lasting impact of this alternative history is a Canada that feels more like a continuation of the Stephen Harper era, rather than a new chapter. The social and political reforms that define the mid-2010s in our timeline never occur, and the country's public discourse is more focused on traditional economic issues. The youthful, progressive energy that Justin Trudeau's leadership came to represent is completely absent, and Canada navigates the challenges of the late 2010s and early 2020s with a more cautious and conservative mindset.